There are three players who are currently unsigned in the NFL, and they're all DBs. And people on the internet can't seem to figure out why they aren't re signed, why they haven't gone anywhere in free agency. Well, we're going to talk about it right here on No Buts About It. Who are these three players, and why are they still not on a team going into the 2024 NFL season training camp? What's up, everyone? It is Josh Butts here with No Buts About It. And today we are going to talk about three defensive backs who are just kind of hanging out in NFL free agency. They're guys who used to be big names or are still big names and just haven't found a team to sign with going into the 2024 NFL season. And training camp is right around the corner. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few of these guys get signed soon. Some may have to wait later than others. But before we get into it, if you could hit that subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. We just hit 300 subs, which is absolutely amazing. Would love to, if we could get to 500 before the start of week one, I would love that. Appreciate it so much. I appreciate everyone who already has subscribed. But if you haven't yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button. So the first guy we are going to talk about is Xavien Howard, who Xavien Howard is an interesting one. So he was released by Miami while they were in cap hell. Them releasing Howard saved $18.5 million for the Miami Dolphins. He's an 8-year veteran, 2016 second round pick, former first team All-Pro and team captain for the Miami Dolphins. This was a guy who, you were scared of when you played the Dolphins before, because he was just such a threat, such a great player to have on the team. And that's just not the case anymore. He has regressed. He has fallen off. And I hate to say that, but it's just the truth. If you go and watch some of his games, specifically a game I watched before we made this video, is Treylon Burks against him in Tennessee, when the Dolphins were playing Tennessee. Treylon Burks just beats him. Howard just doesn't have the long speed anymore that he used to have. Not a great situation for him athletically, because Treylon Burks isn't someone who you really expect to be beaten by when you're a first team All-Pro. When you're this former Pro Bowler known for leading the league in interceptions, Treylon Burks shouldn't be beating you. If it's Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, those guys, okay, I could give you some slack there. But no, Xavien Howard just has fallen off. And the other thing about Howard is he has not been doing too great in the media lately. He's currently got a lawsuit where he allegedly sent sexually explicit photos to a teen of the teen's mother, which that certainly does not help the situation for Howard. I mean, he's not a guy that teams are really looking to take a chance on already because of his lack of production the last season or two, where we've seen that clear regression. He's probably a depth piece at this point. And then a lot of teams aren't going to want to deal with the media trouble of signing a guy in that situation for depth. They may take a risk on it if he was still going to be that guy who's leading the league in interceptions, which he has led the league in interceptions total since 2017 with 29. And he last led the league in interceptions in 2020, and he tied for it in 2018. So he has had a history of that. He's just not that player anymore. I'm saying allegedly to the lawsuit, but again, that's just something that if you sign this player, marketing and HR probably going to be all over you. Like, are you sure? That's not a great thing to be walking into, but some team might do it. I could see the Raiders maybe doing that if they need some depth at CB. So we'll see what happens with Xavien Howard. Not the most promising guy on this list, though. The next guy I want to get into is Mr. Stephon Gilmore, who is a 2012 first round pick by the Buffalo Bills. And a lot of people, this is one of those guys who, if you're ever like hanging out with your buddies at the bar and just naming off people, a lot of people will say Stephon Gilmore was drafted by the New England Patriots, but he was not. He did not join the Patriots until 2017. He was drafted in 2012 by the Buffalo Bills in that first round, and he had modest numbers, but he was good enough. However, when he got to New England, when this man got up to, or I don't actually know if it's north or south of Buffalo, if Foxborough's north or south, or maybe it's just east. But anyway, when he went over to Foxborough, this is where he kind of peaked in his career. 2019, he won Defensive Player of the Year, and he also won a Super Bowl because, Tom Brady exists. So he got to be on that team with Brady, and they went and got another Lombardi trophy because Tom Brady was just like a magnet for those things. Then he ended up going to Carolina, where he was injured for most of the time there. He only started in 3 games. He played in 8 total and was only there for the 2021 season. Then he went to the Indianapolis Colts, where he was decent. I thought he was okay. I mean, you're getting older here. You're not really anything to write home about. But he was good enough for the team, in my opinion. And then, of course, most recently, he was with the Dallas Cowboys. And the Dallas Cowboys have so far let him walk. He was originally traded, by the way, from the Indianapolis Colts to the Dallas Cowboys after requesting a trade because the Colts were in rebuilding mode, had just drafted Anthony Richardson, and they just weren't in a place where they were going to win now. He requested a trade to a contender. Chris Ballard, the Colts GM, traded him down to Dallas for a 5th round pick. All that to say, he still has not found a team for the 2024 season. And I don't know why, really. Like, he's not obviously that same guy that we saw in 2019, but I can't say that he regressed. Because if you look at his stats and even his film, he's always kind of been the same type of player. But that 2019 season is the outlier. That 2019 season was when he really kind of just popped off and he did really well. But you look at that film compared to his other film, and the 2019 season is the one that's different, not the other seasons following. So, he averaged around 3 interceptions per season, and I think he had 2 last season. So he's not really falling off that much. Yes, he's older. Yes, there's risk with that. Completely understand that. But Stephon Gilmore is not someone who I see as a problem. In fact, I have a story with Stephon Gilmore that I think is really cool personally. So this is a photo I took. Stephon Gilmore, his son, and then I presume someone who works for the Colts or Lucas Oil Stadium standing next to him. And this was taken at the Indiana High School Athletic Association high school state football game. My high school, after I'd graduated, had gone to state for the first time ever. And this was a huge deal. This was a very emotional game. The quarterback that was supposed to start that season had actually passed away from cancer earlier in the season. And they ended up dedicating the whole season to him. A new quarterback came in. They ended up going to state. There is a great documentary that my friend made called For Owen on the whole situation, if you want to go check that out. But Stephon Gilmore came. This is during the game, and he was just watching the game. And this could just be tied back to all the emotions of the whole situation. But I thought it was really cool that Stephon Gilmore brought his son to watch that game. That wasn't something that he needed to do. So Stephon Gilmore will always have a special place in my heart. I think that's awesome that he did that. And maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill there because I could see why some people would say that's not a big deal, but I thought it was really cool in the whole context of the situation that we were kind of witnessing. And I hope Stephon Gilmore, if he wants to continue to play, he gets another job. He gets a good position, and I think he'd be a good mentor to a lot of these younger teams. I've seen the Ravens might be interested in him, and that makes sense because TJ Tampa and Nate Wiggins are younger guys. They may need a mentor. You don't really know 100% what you're getting with Tampa or Nate Wiggins. Wiggins may have some injury issues as well. So Stephon Gilmore, I think he could still be a starter for some teams personally. But even if those days are gone, I think Stephon Gilmore should be a rostered player as a depth, as a mentor piece. And I think he would do very well. He could be a later signing as injuries begin to stack up in the first few weeks. So I don't know what is to come for Stephon Gilmore, but he's always going to have a special place in my heart. I hope he's a great guy. I've never met him before. I hope there's not something out there that's like, actually, he did this awful thing. But as far as I know, he hasn't. And I hope nothing comes out that he has done anything. But Gilly, I mean, other than your time spent with the New England Patriots, I can get with Gilly. If the Bengals signed him, I'd probably buy his jersey, but they probably won't. So let's just move on before this just becomes a Stephon Gilmore love fest. The next guy I want to talk about is 2016 third round pick Justin Simmons. And now Justin Simmons was the one of the few highlights on a Denver Broncos team that has not been great the last 3 seasons. Obviously, they had the Nathaniel Hackett season where everything was falling apart, and then last season with Sean Payton kind of in a rebuild, but not in a rebuild. I don't know what Sean Payton's doing. He claims they're not in a rebuild, but then he cut all of their good players or traded them. So I don't know. Sean Payton is weird to me sometimes, but I mean, I guess he's a good coach. But anyway, Justin Simmons is a 4-time second-team All-Pro, and he was cut by Denver to save money. Again, they're in that rebuild. I'm just going to call it a rebuild. If Sean Payton, if you want to come on the show and defend why it's not a rebuild or what you're doing, would love to have you. I just am confused by what you're doing. But hey, you're a head coach in the NFL, and I'm not. So what do I know? He is one of the most versatile safeties in the NFL, though. Justin Simmons can play the back third. He can play in the box. He can play slot. He's even lined up on the defensive line before, I believe. I'm pretty sure I've seen him up there before. I mean, this guy just knows how to play football. He loves playing football. Now, we just mentioned the Denver Broncos were not good, and their defense was awful. Think about that game where the Miami Dolphins just routed them. They had like 71 points on them. It was a lot of points. It might have only been 65, but still, it was a ton of points. And the defense let up all of them. And people are saying on Twitter, I've seen this on Twitter. They're saying Justin Simmons, his production sucks. He's bad. He's awful. Get rid of him. And those people respectfully are idiots, because let's look at this in context. First, I'll read off the stats for you. He had 23 catches allowed on 36 targets for 324 yards, 95 yards after the catch. He allowed 3 touchdowns. He had only 3 interceptions. They say only, but I mean, 3 interceptions is pretty average. He had 8 pass breakups and an opponent passer rating of 85.9. Not great. Not great looks for old Justin here. But you know what? He was the entire secondary for that team. The team was just not good. I'm sorry, Denver, but your team wasn't good. Were all of you more athletic than me, playing way better than what I can do? Yes. But I am not a professional football player. I am not paid to be a professional football player. When I say it, and I've said this from the beginning, if you go back to the first episode of No Buts About It, you will hear me say, if I say a player is bad, 99.9% of the time, I am speaking from the fact that in the NFL context, they are bad. I am fully aware that any of these guys could outrun me, out bench me, out a lot of things me. They're way more, they're superhumans. But in the NFL context, the Denver Broncos defense is awful. And Justin Simmons had to play the entire secondary. And when you have to do that, sacrifices become made. And on the stat sheet, that shows. And it hurts players sometimes because people don't understand the context of the situation. I really think if you put Justin Simmons into a situation where he has help at the safety position, where he has help from corners and the defensive line and the linebackers, he would be very good because you can just let him kind of freelance as a free safety, doing his thing, doing what he's supposed to do. He would be one of, if not the best safety in the NFL. He already is one of the best safeties in the NFL. Justin Simmons has tons of potential, and the fact that he is still a free agent, in my opinion, can only mean one thing. And that is simply that he is asking for way too much money in the eyes of the NFL. So, Xavier McKinney received a 4-year, $68 million contract from the Packers. He is 24 years old, which is 6 years younger than what Justin Simmons is. After that, in this free agency cycle, there's a huge drop off where Darnell Savage Jr., who is 4 years younger than Simmons, so only a 2-year difference between McKinney and Savage, he received 3 years, $21.7 million. So there is a nearly $40 million discrepancy and only 1 year difference in these two contracts. That is huge. And this is from first to second, from what I found in my research. So the NFL is not heavily valuing the safety position right now. And we kind of saw this fall off after not this free agency cycle, but the previous one when Jesse Bates went and signed with the Atlanta Falcons. He had a huge contract. I think it was like 4 years, $64 million. And teams are just kind of saying, we don't want to pay that right now. It's not that we don't want these players on our team. We just don't value them that much. We think that there's a lot of young talent that's coming out of these drafts, especially this season and last season. There was a ton of young safety talent, and you can get those guys late as well. You don't have to put a first round pick or even a second round pick into them. You can find these guys late in the draft. So the NFL as a whole is kind of just telling safeties, we're not going to dedicate a ton of money to that position right now. And that's affecting guys like Justin Simmons. I don't know when the market's going to bounce back, but I really do think Jesse Bates was kind of the last guy to really see a big safety contract for a while. I don't expect Justin Simmons is going to see a Jesse Bates style contract, though he might deserve it. There could be an argument made that he deserves it, maybe a little less than Jesse Bates, but he deserves a roster spot. He's just asking too much right now, and he's feeling confident. At a charity golf event, he said, "We're just playing the long game here. I think ultimately we're going to end up where we wanted and where we're valued. I've always said from the jump that I want to play for a contender, and I feel like I can be the missing piece for a lot of teams to get them over the hump." So he wants to go play for a contender, which makes sense in his age. He's 30. He's kind of got to start thinking about that, getting that ring, because that's what all the players are chasing. Some teams have said the Lions, but I don't think that that's really going to work out. They could pay him, I think, what he wants or kind of close to it, but I don't think the Lions would work because I think I've heard Brian Branch is moving to safety, or at least getting more snaps at safety. and you're not going to really want that competitiveness because Justin Simmons deserves a starting spot, frankly. Like wherever he goes, he shouldn't have to compete for a starting spot. And I think the Lions just want to spend their money in other places, but I could be completely wrong. Maybe he ends up a Detroit Lion tomorrow. But the situation is Justin Simmons hasn't been signed. A couple teams that have been rumored to look at him are like the Ravens, the Steelers. But I mean, the Ravens and the Steelers have been connected to like all of these players as well, except for Xavien Howard. I think I was looking at doing throwing Eddie Jackson in here, but there wasn't a ton of information out about him in free agency, and even he had been tied to the Ravens and Steelers. So pretty much every cornerback or safety that hasn't been signed yet has been tied to the Ravens or Steelers at some point. But I think Justin Simmons, like if he just came down a little bit on his money, I bet he'd have a contract tomorrow. And I'm sure there are teams out there just waiting for that call. But I'd love to see both Justin Simmons and Stephon Gilmore get spots in the NFL this 2024 season. They're both fun guys to watch, guys I really enjoy watching. And it's really all I got to say. So I try to not ramble on in these videos. So I'm going to make one last plea to you to please go subscribe. Because like I said, it really helps us out. We're trying to turn this into a full-time thing, which would mean we could bring you more news more often, and we could cover deeper stories. We could do more analysis. We would have time to do that. Right now, working full-time jobs, can't do that all the time. But now, if we were able to do this all the time, we would be able to bring you deeper analysis, more videos, more content. It would just be better. And the people who have subscribed have been great. It's just 99% of our viewers are unsubscribed and they're returning viewers. So it's not just people who clicked once and then left. No, you guys are coming back over and over. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. And maybe you think you're subscribed and you're not. Make sure to check that. Check it down below. It takes like 5 seconds. We appreciate all of you anyway, though. Even if you're not going to subscribe, I appreciate you for stopping by and taking a chance on us. Until next time, go do something nice for someone. I'm Josh Butts.